Incredible moment, lonely CEO discovers amazing compassion in twin girls' request for leftovers. Mark Peterson had lost track of what joy felt like. Staring out of the pristine glass walls of his office, he carved a shield around his heart, burying himself in spreadsheets and profit margins. A once thriving toy company was crashing, and the pressure was suffocating. At 45, he was the lonely captain of a sinking ship, surrounded by a sterile cocoon of corporate steel that contrasted sharply with the vibrant world beyond his windows. Today, after weeks of numbing decisions, Mark traded boardroom meetings for an unwelcome stroll through the neighborhood. The laughter of children pierced through his fog of despair. He stumbled upon a park, where worn playground equipment bore the weight of joyful innocence. He watched closely as twin girls, no older than 7, rifled through a dumpster behind his office. It was a sight that left him breathless, a sharp pang of nostalgia mixed with a heavy dose of guilt. They pulled out a couple of faded toys, an action figure with missing limbs, a doll with a cracked face, treasures they could bring back to life. As they chattered excitedly about repairing the toys, he felt a flicker of something long buried. The girls weren't seeking wealth or recognition, their aim was pure, simple happiness for their friends who had so little. Mark's heart ached at the realization of how disconnected he'd become, losing sight of community and warmth. The vast chasm between his corporate world and their simple lives felt overwhelming. Compelled by their compassion, Mark introduced himself, an unfamiliar twist of vulnerability surfacing as he shared his idea for turning their toy repairs into something more, a community initiative to spread joy. But he quickly discovered that wealth and status had built walls so high he struggled to connect. Mark, the confident CEO who delivered countless presentations, stumbled through conversations as he engaged with the neighborhood. The hurdles of forming honest, meaningful relationships left him breathless. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mark was desperate to make a difference, plotting a community event designed to unite families over laughter and toy repair. As the day approached, he stood before a crowd in the park, the soft rustling leaves a sharp contrast to the clamoring doubts in his mind. Could he bridge the gap between corporate prestige and heartfelt connection? Could this be a turning point in his life? As eager smiles met his gaze, Mark stood frozen, heart pounding against his chest. Was this a moment of redemption or just another reminder of the isolation that loomed over him? The weight of doubt hung thick in the air. In that split second, amid the clamor of children and excitement, he sensed hope stirring within him, a chance to reconnect with his own life, and perhaps, to rediscover what it truly meant to find joy. The moment was electric, leaving everyone wondering if Mark could finally break free from his gilded cage. Mark drew a deep breath, the warmth of the sun touching his face. This could be it, a spark illuminating the darkness he'd been wrapped in for far too long. With each eager smile from the gathered families, he felt the crowd's energy wash over him like a wave. It reminded him of simpler times, of carefree days filled with laughter and joy rather than the weight of boardroom expectations. Thank you all for coming. His voice broke slightly, echoing doubtfully in the air. He cleared his throat, pushing through the discomfort. Today is about bringing smiles back to the kids, and not just ours, but every child who needs a little happiness. A few claps erupted, spurred on by the twinkle in the eyes of the twin girls beside him, their faces glowing like the sun. They clutched the toys from the dumpster, now tidily wrapped in colorful paper. Mark noticed how they danced on the balls of their feet, excitement radiating from them. He couldn't help but smile. The event began slowly. Families settled down with their old toys, worn and tired, much like Mark felt after years in the corporate grind. But soon, laughter filled the air as children excitedly shared their stories about each toy they had brought, and ideas flowed like a river. Mark watched in awe as the twins led groups of younger kids in repair workshops, guiding them with the enthusiasm only kids could muster. As the day wore on, the initial fears faded. The weight on Mark's chest began to lift, piece by piece, as he engaged genuinely with the families around him. Each interaction, from the shy child working alongside him to a parent who shared his own tales of struggle, was a stepping stone toward rebuilding the connection he had lost. Mark started recognizing faces, learning names. It sent a ripple of warmth through him, a feeling he hadn't tasted in years. That he knelt beside a little boy named Ethan, explaining how to fix a broken wheel on a cherished toy car. "Just be gentle," he advised, feeling the little hands tremble as they pushed the pieces together. The boy's focus was intense, eyes locked onto the work. Mark smiled as he recalled how, just a week ago, he couldn't remember what it was like to feel anything other than pressure. "Good job, buddy," Mark said as Ethan cheered, realizing he had fixed it. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows and a golden hue across the park, Mark's gaze swept over the scene. Rows of smiling faces, laughter echoing joyously, children holding their repaired treasures with pride. He was no longer a lonely CEO. He was a part of something greater, weaving together laughter and hope in every repaired toy. But as the crowd began to disperse, he felt a familiar tug at his heart. A small girl approached him, toy in hand. "Mr. Mark, can we keep doing this? Not just today." It struck him like a bolt of lightning. Hope flickered within him, a realization coursing through his veins. This wasn't just an event, it could be a lifeline, a belonging he sought. Yet, how could he make it last without losing himself to the same world that pulled him away? "Of course," he said, firm and resolved, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Beneath the surface, he wondered if he could sustain the connection he had just found. The crowd began to part, but the question lingered, heavy in the air, echoing in his heart. Could he truly bring this joy into his life and the lives of others, or would his world of isolation claim him once again? Mark stood still for a moment, the weight of the little girl's request echoing in his ears. He looked down at the toy she clutched protectively, and the warmth of her hopeful smile sent a rush of emotion through him. It was a small plea, yet it felt monumental. Could this simple act of kindness be the start of something more? As children began to gather their belongings, laughter and chatter filled the air around him. Mark's heart raced. He could almost taste the opportunity. Just 10 minutes earlier, he had watched Ethan beam with pride over a newly fixed toy, and now, his own heart stirred with a similar excitement. "I know this is just our first day," but he started, his words tumbling out. "How about we turn this into a regular thing? We could fix toys and even make new ones together." His voice wavered with enthusiasm, surprising even himself. The little girl, whose name Mark had just learned was Mia, lit up like a firecracker. "Really? Can we, Mom?" she shouted, glancing back at her mother who nodded with teary eyes, a silent affirmation floating between them. Mark felt something shift inside him. There was a magic here, a joy that he hadn't experienced in years, stifled under the weight of numbers and deadlines. He could already envision the next gathering, inviting the families back, perhaps organizing a bigger event with more toys, maybe even local sponsors to help. His mind raced at the possibilities, but anxiety quickly followed. Would anyone be interested? Could anyone even care about this as much as he did? He took a breath, pushing through that doubt. He thought about the kids, their laughter, their creativity. If he didn't at least try, wouldn't that be worse than failing? "Let us do it, Mia," he said, the fire blazing in his chest. "How about we start small, just a weekend every month? We can build a team and invite everyone back." "Yes." Mia jumped, her sister joining in, their excitement infectious. Soon, a small group of kids was gathered around him, nodding eagerly at the idea. Mark could sense change stirring not just within him, but around them all, a community woven together by compassion and hope. As the sun dipped fully into the horizon, casting a warm glow around the park, Mark stood amidst them. He could no longer feel the encroaching shadows of his past. Instead, he felt zones of light expanding, places for creativity and collaboration, filled with laughter instead of loneliness. but underneath that exhilaration was a nagging doubt. Organizing a group like this would require commitment, consistent energy, and support. His life had been dictated by rigid schedules and corporate tactics for so long. Could he really break free from that to make this work? What if the old world came knocking again, demanding his attention? Is everyone on board? He asked, looking at the wide-eyed children. Can we make this happen? A chorus of hopeful cheers erupted, but deep down, he still wondered. Could he truly embrace this path and continue the journey towards connection and community, or would the shadows of his isolation slip back in? As laughter faded into twilight, Mark looked at Mia, her eyes sparkling with hope. The real question lingered in the air. Would he find the strength to lead this dream or let the opportunity slip away again? Mark woke the next morning with a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling in his stomach. It was time to turn those hopeful cheers into something tangible. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand, he sat at his kitchen table, a blank notebook open before him. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the empty pages, waiting for him to fill them with ideas. That he glanced at his phone, scrolling through reminders of meetings and deadlines that felt more burdensome than usual. Each notification was a reminder of his past, the corporate grind that had squeezed out his creativity and connection. But today was different. He was determined to sketch out a plan, a way forward for this toy repair project he had envisioned. As he pondered, a memory slipped into his thoughts. The sound of Mia and her sister's laughter echoed as they scrunched colorful paper into makeshift toys the day before. He could still see them cutting and gluing, their brows furrowed in concentration but their voices high with joy. "We can make a robot, right, Mia?" Hers had chimed. Mark found himself smiling at the recollection. With a renewed sense of purpose, he grabbed a pen and began to write a simple structure to guide what he hoped would flourish into something much greater. He drafted the basics: an event each month, a call for families to bring their broken toys, and invitations to local businesses for sponsorship. His pen flowed freely, sketching the outline of a community that valued creativity, teamwork, and resilience. Mark could already visualize the gathering: kids huddled at tables, hammering away, laughter bubbling amidst the clanking of tools. Halfway through his brainstorming session, a knock interrupted his thoughts. He opened the door to find Mia and her little sister, keen smiles spread across their faces. "Hi, Mr. Mark. We're here to help," they chorused. The joy radiating from them pulled at his heartstrings. Mark knelt to their level, awash with warmth. "What do you mean? You want to help me out?" "Yeah. We can start planning today," Mia exclaimed. "I asked Mom, and she said we could." Mark's uncertainty sparkled into excitement once more. "Okay, then. Let us get started." They settled at his kitchen table, where colorful markers slowly replaced the starkness of the blank pages. Together, they began brainstorming ideas, bouncing back and forth, enthusiasm like a game of catch. Little by little, their laughter filled the air, drowning out the shadows of Mark's past. As they drew up plans for what they called Toy Repair Day, he noticed how the girls sparkled with ideas: decorations, games, snack ideas. He felt their energy seep into him, awakening something buried deep within his own childhood: joy and passion for creation. The laughter turned into joyful plotting, and soon, even his notes became colorful and messy, adorned with doodles of toy robots and hearts. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mark paused, looking at the chaos of colored papers and the bright eyes of his young partners. This moment felt monumental. It was no longer just about fixing toys, it was about building something together. But what about the fears that still lingered? They lingered in the back of his mind. What if they failed? What if he couldn't keep up the energy this project needed? Would he let Mia and her sister down? Mark looked at the girls, their faces flush with hope and determination. The truth was, he couldn't let that happen. They were counting on him, and he was counting on them, too. "Okay, girls," he said, raising his pen dramatically, "let us give it everything we've got." With those words, uncertainty evaporated. They plunged back into their creative chaos, laughter filling the room like a bomb. Yet, as the night grew darker, Mark couldn't shake the question that loomed above him. What would happen when real obstacles emerged, the ones he couldn't solve with glue and paint? Would he have the courage to face those challenges head-on, or would the shadows from his past creep back in? With that thought lingering, he knew they were just getting started. The real adventure was just around the corner. The next day, Mark awoke to the bright rays of the sun streaming through his window, kicking off a new wave of determination. He had spent an entire night lying awake, wrestling with the nagging concerns that lingered in his mind. The thoughts of what could go wrong seemed to echo louder than the excitement brewing in his chest. Still, the memory of Mia and her sister laughing, their faces lit with delight, pushed him to rise from bed with purpose. After a quick breakfast, he gathered the scattered notes from the previous evening, arranging them in a way that made the ideas clearer. Each doodle of a toy robot and every scribbled-down suggestion reminded him of his newfound mission, to bring joy through creativity and repair. Just before he left, he took a moment to gaze out the window. The neighborhood bustled with life, kids running about, laughing and playing, a perfect reminder of why this project mattered. When Mark pulled up to the local community center, he couldn't help but feel a spark of nerves. He had called a few local businesses, and they had agreed to meet to discuss sponsorship for Toy Repair Day. As he stepped inside, the stark walls adorned with posters of past community events seemed to breathe new life with every step he took. The small meeting room was already filled with local business owners, their chatter buzzing through the air. Mark swallowed hard as he prepared to present. He spoke passionately about the project, recalling the infectious enthusiasm of the girls and how they had inspired him to turn the event into not just a repair day, but a celebration of creativity, resilience, and community spirit. As he shared his plans, he could see the interest flicker in their eyes. Some nodded, some leaned forward, their faces painted with curiosity. Mark wrapped up by inviting them to picture it, a lively gathering where children not only fixed their toys but learned new skills and forged friendships. At the end of his pitch, a hand shot up. It was Mr. Thompson, the owner of the local hardware store. "I love the idea, Mark, but how do we know we'll get families to show up? What if no one comes?" The weight of that question pressed against Mark's chest. What if he had rallied the business community and the families didn't participate? But before he could reply, Mia and her sister burst into the room, their excitement palpable. "Mr. Mark! We brought our toy robot!" Mia exclaimed, holding up a quirky, mismatched creation. "We're so ready for Toy Repair Day." The room shifted. Laughter broke through as others approached the girls, engaging them in conversation. Suddenly, the doubts began to fade away. The presence of the little sister further highlighted how this was more than a project. It was about community connection, and the kids were at the heart of it. After a flurry of enthusiastic discussion, Mark left the meeting with several commitments from local businesses. A renewed energy surged through him, each step echoing with hope. Back at home, as he prepared dinner, Mark reflected on the day. The joyful chaos of the meeting reminded him of the girls' laughter, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were onto something truly beautiful. But a hollow chill crept back in. Was he strong enough to face the hurdles awaiting them, especially if they faced unexpected setbacks? That evening, a soft knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Mia and her sister again. "We wanted to see if we could help again," they said, eyes sparkling with eagerness. Mark grinned. He gestured for them to come inside, feeling an ever-growing warmth in his chest. "Of course. We can't do this without you." As they settled in, giggling and chattering about toys, Mark knew this was just the beginning. Yet, as his heart filled with hope, another nagging doubt lingered in the back of his mind. What if they did put everything into this project, and it still fell flat? With that question hanging heavy in the air, Mark glanced at the girls. Their laughter filled the room, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was yet to come. The following morning, Mark woke with the sunlight filtering through his curtains, but the thrill he felt the day before had dimmed. His mind buzzed with worry about the event, and the doubt seemed to hum louder than before. What if families didn't show? What if the businesses pulled their support? Yet, the image of Mia's robot, her face lit with excitement, inspired a flicker of hope. He couldn't let fear hold him back. That he quickly made a plan. First, he'd reach out to the community, create a buzz. He hopped on his phone, typing out invitations to schools, local parent groups, and even the neighborhood association. Each message he sent felt like a step toward overcoming his fears. His heart raced when he clicked send on the final email. He had no idea how they would respond. Later that afternoon, Mia and her sister returned, carrying a homemade flyer in their hands. "Mr. Mark." Mia beamed, "We made this. It's for Toy Repair Day." Mark took the flyer, a grin spreading across his face. It was colorful and cheerful, just like them, but a certain weight pressed on his chest. "This is perfect. You both are so talented," he replied, recognizing that their excitement was infectious. But as they discussed the flyer, he couldn't help but feel a gnawing worry at the back of his mind. "What are we going to do if not enough kids come?" he blurted, frustration bubbling over. "We need this to work, and I don't know if it will be enough." The laughter faded. Mia looked at him, her eyes wide and earnest. "But it will be fun, Mr. Mark. We'll make sure everyone knows. They'll want to come. I'll tell my friends at school." The sincerity on her face tugged at his heart. He wasn't alone in this after all. Their energy was a reminder that it wasn't just about numbers, it was about creating connections, fostering joy, and sharing a love for creativity. Later that week, they set out to distribute their flyers around the neighborhood, laughter and excitement filling the air as they approached homes and community bulletin boards. Mark watched as Mia's sister eagerly asked every person they saw, her enthusiasm contagious. "What if we offer a prize for the best repaired toy?" Mark suggested one evening as they gathered around the dining table for dinner. The girls' eyes widened, and their squeals filled the room, washing away Mark's lingering doubts. "Like a toy store gift card?" Mia shouted, bouncing in her seat. "Yes. Exactly. That way, kids don't just fix their toys, but they get something magical out of it too." Mark felt revitalized. For every idea they fleshed out, his worries seemed to diminish, replaced by excitement. He was starting to believe they really could pull this off together. A few days passed, and the air buzzed with anticipation as Toy Repair Day approached. The community center slowly filled with volunteers, materials, and laughter. But as he glanced around the buzzing room, his heart raced with the fear of uncertainty. "Mark!" Mia's excited shriek pulled him from his thoughts. "Check this out. We have another toy to fix." Turning, Mark faced the two girls standing by a table overflowing with toys and supplies. They were sparkling with joy. Watching them reminded him of the power of laughter and connection, but as he felt hope ignite within him, another thought slipped into his mind. What if no one comes? He wondered, looking over the vibrant crowd. The joy and commotion around him felt fragile, as though the slightest breath could break the spell. Could they truly create something memorable? But just as despair threatened to creep back in, he caught sight of parents arriving, children laughing, toys in hand. A wave of warmth washed over him. Maybe this was it. Maybe they really could create something special after all. As he took a deep breath and stepped forward, the door swung open, revealing a small crowd of eager children and parents. The moment hung in the air as anticipation filled the space. Mark whispered a nervous wish to himself, "Let this work," and as the laughter echoed louder, he understood that the real test wasn't just if the event would succeed, but if he could allow himself to trust the journey ahead. Yet, just as that light of hope began to shine brighter, a familiar figure stepped in, a worried look on their face. What would that mean for them all? The familiar figure stepped into the community center, and a chill ran through Mark. It was he, the owner of the toy store, who had pledged his support but sighed heavily as he entered. Mark's stomach twisted. The man surveyed the buzzing room but didn't seem to share in the joy that filled the space. "Hey, Mr. Thompson." Mia called, rushing over, her infectious smile beaming. "Look at all the toys we have to fix." Mr. Thompson hesitated for a moment before offering a weak smile. "That's great, kids. Just, great, he replied, glancing around uneasily. Mark braced himself, fearing the worst. Mr. Thompson, is everything okay? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. With a sigh, the toy store owner nodded slowly. I wanted to support you all, really, but with the recent downturn in sales, I don't know if I can afford to keep providing supplies. I've had to let go of some employees already. He trailed off, his expression a mix of frustration and disappointment. Mark's heart sank. This wasn't just about toys anymore, it was about people. The ripple effect of one business struggling weighed heavy on him. What if we partnered up more? Mia's sister chimed in, eyes wide. You could still help, right? We can fix more toys and then we can tell people they can buy them at your store. Mark felt a flicker of hope at her suggestion, but Mr. Thompson shook his head. I appreciate the thought, but I really can't take on any more costs right now, he mumbled, avoiding their hopeful gazes. Mia's smile faded. Mark knelt down, meeting the girl's eyes. Listen, it's okay to be scared. We'll figure this out together. But even as he said it, doubt crept back in. What could they really do? Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. What if we feature a special toy area for Mr. Thompson? He turned to the girls. If kids bring their broken toys, they can fix them and then maybe add a small donation for a chance to win a gift card at his store. It could help him too. The girls' eyes lit up. That's brilliant! Mia exclaimed. Encouraged by their energy, Mark turned to Mr. Thompson again, urgency framing his words. We want this to work. Let's draw in the community and turn this into something everyone can benefit from. We can combine our efforts. Mr. Thompson seemed to soften a little, contemplating. That could be something, a win-win. He suggested cautiously. Exactly. A chance to give back, and kids get to experience the joy of creating again, Mark added, feeling a surge of conviction. He could sense relief beginning to wash over the worried founder before him. As they brainstormed ideas, the initial tension began to ease. Laughter and creative chatter returned as the kids became more involved in the plans. The excitement built to a fever pitch, and for the first time, Mark felt like they were truly creating a partnership. Hours passed, and the sun began lowering outside, casting a warm glow over the community center. It felt electric with the joy and chatter of children, parents, and volunteers. Mia and her sister rushed around, handing out tools, spreading enthusiasm wherever they went. But deep down, Mark's earlier fears lingered, haunting the edges of his joy. What if the donations weren't enough? What if their combined efforts didn't draw in enough support to patch over the cracks? As moments of worry flickered through his mind, he clenched his fists and pushed the doubts away. This was a start. This was hope igniting, and maybe, just maybe, they could all pull through together. As toy repair day progressed, a moment of unexpected silence drew Mark's attention. A group of children had formed a small circle around the table, expression intense, as they carefully inspected a large toy truck that was in need of serious repair. Curious, he leaned closer but was taken aback by the sight. One of the children was holding a small, faded photo of an older man with a gentle smile, revealing a story behind the toy that connected to family, love, and memories. What is going on here? Mark asked softly, taking in the scene, and in that moment, he realized that they were about to create something even bigger than he imagined. But would he be ready to meet the emotional journey that lay ahead? The hushed energy of the circle caught Mark off guard. The glimmering eyes of the children reflected a depth of feeling that made his heart ache. The faded photograph, a picture of an older man, was held carefully by a young girl, her grip tight as if cradling something precious. Whose photo is that? Mark asked, kneeling to see better. My grandpa, the girl replied, her voice barely a whisper, filled with reverence. He used to fix this truck for me when I was little. It's broken now, and I want to fix it. I want to make it like new for him. The weight of her words fell on Mark like a heavy blanket. Right then, he felt the true heart of their mission. It wasn't just about fixing toys, it was about preserving memories, rebuilding connections, and breathing life back into love. "Let us fix it together," he said, feeling a swell of determination mixing with hope. The children nodded enthusiastically, excited by the prospect, each adding their own ideas to the mix. As they gathered tools and materials, laughter bubbled back into the air. Mark watched how the children worked in harmony, the way they shared ideas, solved problems, and celebrated little victories. He found himself snapping photos of their joy, capturing moments that would surely become cherished memories, too. He looked over at Mr. Thompson, who had also been watching quietly. Mark caught a glimpse of something shifting in the older man's expression. Curiosity was replaced with warmth, perhaps even a hint of newfound hope. "Mr. Thompson, will you help us with this truck?" Mark asked, motioning him to join their joyful chaos. "I think you might have a lot of wisdom to share." Mr. Thompson hesitated, then stepped forward tentatively. "Sure, let us see what we can do." Mark felt a jolt of anticipation. As the toy store owner joined in, the atmosphere shifted. Suddenly, his experience became part of the story. He guided the children with gentle encouragement, sharing tips and techniques he'd picked up over the years. His passion for the toys sparking back to life. Minutes turned to hours as the truck began to transform under their combined efforts. Scrapes were fixed, paint was reapplied, and wheels were reattached with care. It became clear that this wasn't just a restoration. Together, they were breathing life back into something that stood for memories and love. "Thank you," the girl said, her eyes bright with emotion as they completed the final touches. "You helped me fix more than just a toy." The room shifted again, the air thick with emotion as they realized the impact of their work. Children gathered, sharing stories of their own toys and memories, a tapestry of life woven together through shared experiences. But as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, painting the room in hues of orange and pink, Mark felt a shadow creeping back in. What would this mean for Mr. Thompson? If they revived the toy store, could it really mend the cracks in the community? Would people come together as they had today? "Mr. Thompson." Mark turned to the older man, who stood deep in thought. "This worked, didn't it? Could you feel it?" Mr. Thompson nodded slowly, a smile breaking free. I think we might be onto something. But we need to keep the momentum going." Mark smiled, feeling a rush of hope swell within him. They had taken the first step, but it was only the beginning. "Let us keep this alive," he suggested, eyes sparkling. "We can have more days like this. Build a better connection with the community." Just then, a commotion at the door drew their attention. A large group of parents entered, their faces curious and drawn. Mark's heart raced. Would they embrace this vision or reject it? "Hey, everyone!" he called, his voice steady yet underscored with urgency. "You've got to hear what we created today." As more children rushed to share their stories, Mark felt a spark of determination igniting. This was their chance to bridge gaps, to sum up the community's strength and vulnerability, to mend not only toys but the heart of their town. And yet, what awaited them outside? Would the support they'd begun to build truly sustain their dreams? The air buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety as parents mingled with children, curiosity lighting their faces. Mark stepped forward, his heart racing, driven by the conviction that this moment could change everything. "Today, we've shared something special," he began, letting his voice resonate in the room. "We worked together to fix a toy that means the world to a little girl. This is more than just a truck, it's about love, memories, and building our community." A murmur swept through the crowd. Parents glanced at each other, nodding, some whispering to their children, urging them to share their own stories. Mar. Thompson stood beside Mark, visibly transformed. He shed the weight that had clung to him, a glimmer of enthusiasm dancing in his eyes. As he spoke up, his voice trembled slightly. "This is what the store was meant to be, a place of joy, creativity, and connection. Let us make it a home for everyone." Mark felt the warmth radiating from the crowd. Children, emboldened by their recent triumphs, energetically recounted tales of beloved toys, some long forgotten, others damaged but still cherished. The energy filled the room, a growing wave of laughter and shared hope. Suddenly, a soft voice broke through the chatter. A small girl with pigtails stepped forward, clutching her favorite, albeit worn, teddy bear. "My bear doesn't have a button eye anymore. Can we fix him too?" Mark's heart swelled. "Of course. Just like we did with the truck, we can all work together to fix your bear. Everyone can help." Cheers erupted around him, and children bounded forward, eager to involve their parents. Mark's breath caught. This was not just a one-day project, it was the dawn of a movement. As families gathered around the makeshift workspace, Mark felt a firm hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Mr. Thompson smiling. "You've ignited something in them," he said, his voice full of pride. "We need to plan more days like this. Community workshops, maybe a festival to celebrate our connections." Mark nodded vigorously, a surge of excitement coursing through him. "Yes. We could invite more families, all the kids. We could turn this into something big." They shared ideas, brainstorming activities, and ways to promote their newfound mission. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere was charged with a sense of camaraderie. It felt as if the walls of the store itself were smiling, cradling this revitalization, but amid the joy, a sliver of doubt clung to Mark. Worries whispered in the back of his mind: what if this momentum faded? What if they couldn't sustain this sense of belonging once the excitement wore off? As the last bits of light faded from the windows, a child's voice squealed with delight. "Look! We fixed it! It's just like new." The cheer that rose from that single triumph snapped Mark back into the present, igniting his resolve. "Let's take this outside," he called, gesturing for them to follow. "Let us show the whole town what we can do together." With determination surging, Mark led them out into the crisp evening air. The street was quiet, but his vision was clear. They could turn this into a vibrant gathering to not just revive toys, but revive their hope. As they stepped into the night, lit by the gentle glow of streetlights, he suddenly stopped, his heart pounding. He recalled the hesitation he felt just hours ago, and now, standing on the verge of transformation, he felt a flicker of uncertainty return. "Okay, but what if no one shows up?" He wondered aloud, suddenly vulnerable amidst the group of eager faces. "What if we share this joy, and it's not received the way we hope?" A few parents exchanged glances, concern mixed with skepticism shadowing their expressions. Mark swallowed hard, bracing himself for the response. Would they stand with him or retreat into the comfort of silence? But just as doubt threatened to consume him, Mia stepped forward once more, her small body brimming with confidence. "Mr. Mark, you've already shown us that we can do great things together. Look around. We've already had a wonderful day fixing toys. Imagine what we can do next." Her words echoed in the silence, wrapping around the group like a warm blanket. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Parents nodded. Children buzzed with excitement. Mark felt his heart swell. Maybe there was magic in just believing, in this newfound community spirit. "Okay, listen up, everyone," he said, raising his hands to gather their attention. "What if we all promise to spread the word about Toy Repair Day? Not just amongst ourselves, but with the entire neighborhood. Let us show that joy can be revived, that every toy has a story worth saving." His voice rang aloud with passion, no longer strained by nerves but fueled by hope. The crowd erupted into cheers, their energy contagious. "Yes. Let us do it. We'll tell everyone." Mia and her sister jumped up and down, their laughter echoing into the night sky. Mark couldn't help but laugh too. It was pure, unfiltered joy, spilling out of this group of children and parents, reminding him of everything he had lost and what he longed for. They were building something beautiful together, a bridge to a shared future. And so, as the sun set into a canvas of oranges and purples, a new chapter began. They drew up plans right then and there, gathering to determine the next steps with a fervor he had never encountered before. "Let us work on our next phase of activities and invite everyone to join in the next repair day," We can make it more than just fixing toys, we can make it a celebration of who we are. Mark declared, his voice steady and vibrant. Children's eyes sparkled with ideas. Parents began to engage more deeply, sharing their resources, time, and stories that made their community shine. Under the glow of streetlights, a new bond was forged, a commitment to uplift each other, to create joy, and to preserve the memories that made them a community. As laughter filled the air, Mark felt the weight of loneliness lift, the shadows retreated. There was light here now, a vibrant pulse of connection filling the spaces that once felt hollow. He was no longer the lonely CEO. He was a leader of something beautiful, something meaningful, and the thrill of that realization ignited a fire in his chest. Today marked a new beginning, but they would go on to transform lives if they pressed forward together, fueled by creativity and compassion. With the crowd buzzing, he raised a fist, feeling the echoes of excited voices around him. Let us keep this going. Let us not just mend broken toys, but broken hearts. Together, we can bring joy back into our lives. As cheers erupted, Mark smiled brighter than he had in years, realizing that he had not just found joy, he had found a family, one built on laughter, hope, and unwavering connection. This was just the beginning. Now, as the story comes to a close, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. You won't want to miss out on the next exclusive stories that will lift your spirit like this one did. Leave a like now, it really helps us reach more people and spread this wonderful message. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending, we want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show your support. Join our community today.